to sort of help express some of your thoughts that you've been, as far as rights and social issues and all sorts of things like that. How long ago have you started your blog? Is that sort of a couple of years then, or how long have you been doing your blog?
I started with MNN, MohawkNationNews.com. I helped them build that, and I was webmaster there for a year. I guess that's how I got into the whole writing thing. And that was a really good experience for me. They're doing really well as MohawkNationNews.com. I mean, they're doing very good as well.
Yes, I noticed that Mohawk Nation News has taken a very sort of unapologetic approach to covering the various, goings on with respect to, oppression has continued to take place in spite of the fact that, there's been an apology by the Canadian federal government on, residential schools. We still seem to be having, as reported by Mohawk Nation News, ongoing oppression and atrocities taking place on the Canada-U.S. border where the Mohawk Nation is.
Yeah, the genocide continues. People have to understand what the descriptions of genocide are in the Treaty and Convention on the Crime and Punishment of Genocide that Canada signed in 1948. I mean, really, let's just apply those words. The same ones are there. I mean, that's the solution.
And one of the things which seems to be somewhat a disconnect is that it seems that many, if not most, Canadians seem to want to, redress the ongoing treaty rights and a lot of the social disenfranchisement have been taking place on, with the Mohawk Nations and other, Aboriginal peoples across Canada. But there seems to be a continued frustration, no matter what the color of the current federal government, liberal or conservative, seems to be an ongoing frustration with, trying to address these issues and continue to have Aboriginal peoples without basic running water and continue to ignore treaty rights. And why do you think the federal government seems to be so disconnected with Aboriginal peoples and the rest of Canada as far as these ongoing issues? Like, why are they continuing to frustrate the whole process of negotiations with the Mohawk Nation and other Aboriginal nations?
Well, Canada, you have to, first of all, understand what Canada is and why we celebrate Canada Day July 1st is because July 1st, 1867, Canada registered itself as a corporation in Washington, D.C. The appearance of having legality to the land, because that's what it is to be a legal country, you have to have undisputed title to your land. Well, they don't have that, so the appearance was all those treaties. But the corporate government of Canada is in default. I mean, and it is a corporation. People think they're citizens of Canada, but that's just an illusion. You're just an employee of the corporation.
Yeah, so definitely, in terms of this whole corporate context of Canada, I think that sort of context is perhaps just a sort of related to a kind of a dehumanization context, right? So rather than having a sort of a recognizing not just Aboriginal nations like the Mohawk Nations, but the whole Canadians in general as people and communities, when we have this, I guess, this sort of corporate focused it's kind of it's sort of you sort of start a whole context of, I guess, dehumanization. So I guess that in certain ways the dehumanization of this whole corporate context of Canada is is something to which sort of spreads throughout and tinges the whole ability of, to redress these Aboriginal rights, I guess, and to deal with, I guess, fundamental other issues that are affecting the Canadians in general. How do you think that, acknowledging this sort of corporate context, how can, Aboriginal nations and Canadians who support the Mohawk Nation, and how can we sort of overcome this sort of neo-colonial context to finally start getting these issues redressed? How do you think we should do that?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's real simple. I mean, back in 1710, when the Four Kings visited Queen Anne, one of those guys was my actual seventh-generation grandfather. When he came back, he said, he was over there investigating the bloodlines of the royal families in Europe. He said, they rely on the written word. It is how they will be judged. That was 1710. So why don't we just look at that now and say 1960, Canada signed the Treaty on Decolonization. Nothing happened here except they gave Indians the right to vote if they wanted to join Canada as corporate citizens. That's all that happened. So, number one, look at that treaty in 1960. Go back further to 1948. Canada signed the Treaty on the Crime and Punishment of Genocide. Now, in that one, it states that everyone, no one is above this law. This is a good law, maybe the most important law. It will nip genocide for good. I mean, but see, in Canada, you have a corporation. So the corporation, the shareholders, that's who we don't know who they are, but they are all guilty of genocide just by admitting what they did in the residential schools since 1924. Again, that's not too long ago. I mean, forget about the 150 million or 115 million natives that killed North, South, Central America since the 1400s, but I mean, just like look at 1924, Canada admits to genocide, stands up and admits to the world about genocide. Every description in the Treaty on the Crime and Punishment of Genocide. Those people who did that need to be tried as, like the Nuremberg trial, for genocide. So, I mean, that's what the people of Canada should be saying. I mean, let's hold them to their words. I mean, the Corporation of Canada has shareholders. The employees, citizens, if you will, don't know who those shareholders are. But we all know how a corporation works when they want to downsize. The employees are thrown to the wolves, and really that's what the people of Canada have to understand. This is not working, this corporate structure that's set up. It just makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. And everyone else has got to start looking at what happened in the residential schools, because that's what's going to happen to the rest of the people. We're all slaves to these corporatists, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. There's definitely corporations are very dehumanizing, and it's about time that we as Canadians start to address these basic issues. And now I'm going to take the time to also welcome in our conversation DJ Anna, who definitely has some thoughts she wants to express to you, and in this very critical matter of Aboriginal issues and Mohawk Nation rights and how they all come together. So take it away, DJ Anna. Welcome to our conversation here.
Thank you very much. So where do we go from here? What's your ideas on how do we move forward from this issue?
Well, I think that Canadians have to, understand the illusions that have been presented to them. I don't know how you can wake people up when 92% of them are getting all their information from mainstream media that's owned by a few corporations. Everything you read is... Well, what did Mark Twain say? He said, if you don't read the newspaper, you are uninformed. If you do read the newspaper, you are misinformed. So we have a huge thing in front of us just about this. Good thing for people like you doing shows like this, alternative media, if you will. But can we affect, a large percentage of the Canadian population? I hope so. Really, all we have to do is abide by the treaties, the most recent ones, 1948 and 1960. Just start right there. You don't even have to go back for hundreds of years. You can just start right there. These treaties have not been honored. Canada signed them and does not honor them.
And for those listening at the moment, could you give just a little bit of history about the Mohawk Nations, who might not know anything about it?
The Mohawk Nation? Well,